One of my favorite problems, not because I like Taco Bell, I actually don't like Taco Bell, I just think that it's a fun problem. So the important information here is you're starting out with 147 milligrams of caffeine, and the half-life is 6 hours. So the half-life is 6 hours. And you begin at 10 p.m. So we'll deal with the time here in a little bit. So how long will it take for only 80 milligrams to be left? So clearly this is a half-life problem because it says so in the actual problem. So the formula for half-life is, remember that it's the time elapsed over the length of the half-life. We want to basically figure out how many half-lives have happened. So we take how long it's happened and divide it by the length of the half-life. So we want to know when 80 milligrams is left if I start with 147. So 147 is my A value, and 80 is how much I want to have left. 1/2. We want to know how long has elapsed. I'm actually looking for that number right there. Okay, so because my variable is in the exponent there, I am going to actually use logs to solve this, but I need to get rid of this number in front first. I need to divide by 147 first. We can just leave that as, yeah, we'll just leave that as 80 over 147. A lot of times in the real world, numbers just don't work out very nicely because the real world doesn't it just doesn't happen that way. If we want to convert this to a log, remember that the base is going to be here, so it's going to be the log base 1/2 of 80 over 147, and I'll show you how we can put that in the calculator. So convert this to a log, it's going to say log base 1/2 of 80 over 147 is going to equal the time elapsed over 6. If you go into math, right, I got to the newer calculator because it shows it easier. If you go into math, you need to go down to letter A, and it says log base. If you do not have a newer calculator, you're going to have to get online and try to do this because the old ones don't do this. And then you can see it pops up a base right there. So I'm going to put 1/2 down there, and then up here I'm going to put 80 over 147. And so I get approximately 0.87. So I'm going to leave that on the screen, even though I'm only writing down part of it on my paper, because my next step is going to be to multiply by 6. So I can do times 6 right now. And so the time elapsed is about 5.27 hours. Okay, we're not done with the question. We need to know at what time of day is that, right? So if I start at 10 p.m., 11 to 12 to 1 to 2 to 3, so we know it's going to be 3 a.m., but we've also got this 0.27 hours. Now if we're just estimating, okay, 0.27 is pretty close to 0.25, which is a quarter of an hour, which would be 15 minutes, or we can take that decimal portion, that 0.27, and multiply it by 60 to figure out how many minutes that actually is. So it would actually be at 3:16 a.m. That's how many minutes, 16.2 minutes. So it would be at 3:16 and then some seconds.